right, and we will continue on with Denny Hamlin, driver the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. If you have a question for Denny, please raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you, and we'll start here with Eddie and work our way around the room.
Morning, Denny. Eddie Kalegi, Motorsports Today. I asked Joey the same question because he was at the Yankee game last night. Obviously, I saw you met DeMar Hamlin. Michael Jordan's your business partner. How crucial is it for NASCAR from a growth standpoint to continue building and fostering relationships with other pro sports that aren't racing affiliated?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of crossover opportunities, and certainly this year's been examples of that. It's those things they're important. Promotion of the sport has always been important, but sports fans are ones that there's only so many, and then there's only so many eyeballs that can or programs that they can watch at one time, right? So you're kind of fighting for those eyeballs, and so certainly when you can appeal to another sports audience and show them that this is a sport too, this is our drivers are athletes or whatever it might be, then maybe you try to get some new fans into the sport.
All right, we'll go to Chris.
ChrisKnightCatchments.com. Denny, 2 quick questions, one serious and one not so serious. What's it like being a family of 5? Have you gotten any sleep?
He's been great. He has slept through the night the last 3 nights in a row, so it's been really, really good. So he's behaving well early.
That's good. All right, 36. So you'll make your 36 Cup start at Pocono tomorrow. An average finish of 11.7. What has made you so good here at Pocono?
Truthfully disappointed it's not better than that, but it's we've had some tough engine brakes and things like that that's happened here, but I don't know, it's just a track that no matter what the car that we drive or the tires that we have on, the aero package, none of that really matters. You still make speed at this racetrack the same way, no matter what car you're driving. So I think that it's been one of the few tracks that I haven't had to change my approach to it depending on the car that I'm driving. So I think that's why the success has been sustained.
All right, we'll go to Jordan and then Tim.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. I'm going to ask this before I ask my next question. Did you watch last week's race at home?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so watching it as a fan at home, what were your impressions of everything?
I thought it was really good. Obviously, from kind of a broadcast standpoint, I was entertained. Even when the racing wasn't super entertaining, what I liked was the broadcast gave you another story that they're talking about. I think their production is fantastic. The pre and post race show, I found myself, again, I'm in the sport, so I'm biased, but tuning in pre, tuning in post, and so it kept me engaged with the race longer. There were lulls where, maybe I got a little sleepy, but it was, that's just part of it. Sometimes you have someone that wins by 16 seconds, and that's okay. But I think that they just do a phenomenal job telling all the stories and really getting you excited about strategy and, giving you an opportunity. This person might catch this one, so keep an eye out for that. So just doing a great job, I think, so far.
You kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask it again. Why do you think Amazon's coverage has resonated with race fans? Because race fans in general don't seem to agree on anything, but everybody seems to be liking what Amazon is doing.
Well, I think they have racers that are in the booth. Obviously, if you look at kind of the cast of people they have, it's these guys know the sport in and out. Dale Jr. hosts a podcast, talks about it each and every week. Steve Letarte is one of the best, if not the best, at just keeping you constantly engaged. And so I just think it's the rapport that they have with each other that is so good. And then not being bound by, obviously network and having to hit commercials. I think they talked about it on Junior's podcast this week, being flexible with, when they take their breaks and stuff. I think that's certainly important because, a lot of the gripe that you'll hear is that, man, it's just it's 9 to go and we're going to commercial, and it's like that's just not the right time. But unfortunately, that's the way network TV works.
All right, we'll go to Tim and then Zach in the back.
Denny, Tim Kettle, Famo Motor Racing Network. I want to ask you, looking ahead, about the Chicago Street Race. This is the third year that we've gone to Chicago, and I know that obviously you've run there the last 2 years, but looking at it from a broader perspective, the concept of racing in a street course in the middle of a U.S. city, what's your thoughts on that and your overall opinion of the street race in Chicago the last couple of years?
Yeah, I hate that the street race has been mired by rain. I think that there was an absolute amazing field to the inaugural race, and then it downpours, and of course people got to leave, and then, anytime you force people to leave, it's, sometimes you might get them back, you might not, and I just think it's really been up against it as far as like the conditions concerned. But it just, the track has been good. It's racy. It's got passing zones. The scenery is fantastic, kind of the backdrop in which we're racing in. There's a lot of positives to that Chicago street race. And obviously, it probably will move around in the future, but it's kind of the mold in which I would like to see any street race that we continue to implement.
And the second question that I have for you is about this in-season tournament that's going to be starting very shortly. What's your thoughts on the concept overall? Is it something that you're thinking about when you're going to be in these races as part of an extra thing to have on your mind, or is it more of an afterthought? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sports guy, so I'm going to be engaged with it. I will know who I have to beat starting next week. All that will, I've told the team we're gonna try to do what we can, and now we're gonna be up against it. We're going to tracks that are not super favorable for me, but we're gonna try our best to beat that one car for the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Zach Sterniolo, NASCAR.com. Denny, just physically, how are you feeling after getting a week off? That's so rare in the sport right now, especially in the midst of 28 straight. How do you feel coming back this weekend?
Really good. I'm older, so my body has to go through a reset every 7 days, right? I get it to where it's pretty good. By the time we get to Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday I mess it up again, and then I go through that whole cycle all over again. So it was good to have a week break. Certainly, I had the same week break that everyone else did, a month or so ago. But I can tell you that second week is phenomenal, if we can get that back.
You've had this before where you've had to step out of the car and then come back after time off. What is that process like to get reacclimated? Obviously, you've done this so long now. I assume a lot of it is second nature. But is there a sort of switch you have to turn back on, having been in dad mode the last week and a half or so, to coming back here?
Yeah, I mean, because I didn't work. I mean, it wasn't like I was just sitting around and, just hanging out by the pool. Like, I didn't work. When it came to, like, sim and meetings, I missed all that stuff. Obviously, because my focus was with her, and they were, they're in the hospital longer than normal. So I felt like, I was a little rusty this week in the sim. It took probably an extra 30 minutes to get back in it, but once I did, I felt good and feel like I'll fire off fine today.
Go ahead, Dan.
Dan Gelson, Associated Press. Jeffrey Kessler this week said, I'm always open to a settlement. After the recent court hearing, he said, I think my clients are always open to a settlement. Is that a fair assessment on how you feel?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're hoping for, or are you hoping to get this to trial?
I have stated publicly that I've always hoped cooler heads would prevail, but I can tell you it's not on our end that needs to, the cooler heads. It's certainly, we've said that. I think the difference is they're saying different things on their side. So we're prepared to go all the way.
And just a quick follow-up, you mentioned that you were in the hospital a little longer than usual. I mean, I know it sounded like a little bit of a difficult childbirth. One, if you could tell me the story behind the name, I think it seems kind of obvious, but if you could explain it, and also how everything has been, how that experience was, any scary moments, things like that.
It was hard on her. It was no doubt really hard on her, and that's truthfully, I had planned all along to as long as he comes before Thursday, I was gonna go to the weekend as scheduled, but the labor was tremendous, and it was we knew that we were gonna have to be there longer than normal. So at that point, right away, I said, there's just no way I can leave in the next 36 hours, which that's what I needed to go there and do the job correctly. And you know what? Truthfully, too, that if we raced in at Darlington, I'd be there for race day, but it's just the logistics. It just was bad timing from that standpoint. And so I think that had it been something local, probably still would have made it. But just the logistics and knowing that you got 12 hours, of logistics, just to get there. Just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, especially knowing that those few days after are pretty fragile times where I can't just hop back in the plane and go back. And so the name, obviously I'm James, so that's James's son, Jameson. And Drew, we wanted to keep JD because obviously JD Gibbs is a big part of my getting here to the Cup Series. James Dean was the car owner I drove for in late models that got me the equipment to win all those races, to get seen by JD. I'm JD, and so we just keep it going.
Right, we have time for one final question. We're going to go to Dalton.
Took it right out your hand, bud. No seconds for you.
Easier that way. Denny, Dalton Humphreys at front stretch. Dale Jr. surprised a lot of people by announcing that he's going to be on top of the pit box for today's Xfinity race. As somebody who is also a driver and a car owner, how difficult is it to make that transition?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. If he's a real crew chief, I think that's a pretty tough transition. Those guys, that's a whole nother thing. Is it? I don't know what it is. I don't know what his role is. It looks like they're going to lean heavily on the engineers, which that's kind of, the crew chiefs a lot of them are just really good managers, truthfully, of all the people. They send the engineers in directions, things like that. My guess is they're just, you do have to have that guy. I mean, I'd love to see he ultimately pulls the trump card on whatever the strategy is and says, no, this is my call. This is what I want to do. So, the transition from someone being a car owner driver to actually being a crew chief, that would be a huge undertaking because that's a total different job, especially if you were going to do it full time and to the full capacity. But I think this is just more of a temporary thing.
Would you ever do it?
No, hell no.
All right, I did not mean to cut Jordan off, so we're going to let Jordan finish.
Jordan Bianchi, the Athletic, you're going to wish I didn't ask this question. Speaking of the
I'm ready for anything.
Yeah, all right. Well, good. I'm glad. Speaking of the settlement, you guys talked about you guys would be willing to, reach a settlement, that kind of thing. Have you guys made a formal settlement offer to NASCAR?
No, we don't have mediation, I believe, until August or so. We did not want to entertain any of that until we went through full fact discovery.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, Denny. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks.